All right, we have for this is one good-sized butternut squash. I'm going to do 2 apples, stick of butter, cup of pecans or walnuts, and we're going to use some honey too as well. But first, we need to peel our butternut squash. I'm using a serrated peeler, and that makes it really easy because it has ridges on it to get it peeled. Or you're going to have to use a regular peeler. But you got to get those peels off your butternut squash first because we're going to cut them into cubes. You can also buy pre-cubed and cut up butternut squash. So we get that all peeled first. Next we're going to cut our butternut squash, one side off, other side off. Cut it again in half, right? And then you're going to cut down the middle to get your squash cuts, right? Then what we're going to do is we're going to cut down the part that doesn't have the seeds. We're going to go down and keep going down to get about 3/4 inch planks. Once we get our 3/4 inch planks, then we're going to cut these down into larger strips, just like that, right? Then of course we're going to cut them turn them the other way, and get our cubes. So those are about 3/4 inch size cubes on our butternut squash, just like that. There you go. All right, next we're going to scoop out our seeds from the main part of the butternut squash. Use a little spoon, get those seeds out. Get all that dumped out. Once you get both sides with the seeds out, then we're going to cut them into squares. Those are seeds out. You're going to cut these down into planks as well. And that's going to give you your squares coming down this way and down that way. There you go. And you get your squares. Keep going like that. About 2 apples. Green apples are good to have. I cut them in half, right? And then you cut down on an angle to get your core out. Once you get your core out, then you're going to cut it again, right? There you go. And you're going to cut those into about 3/4 inch size squares, and you're all set. That's our apples. Get a pan. We preheated our oven to 350, and we got a stick of butter. We're going to melt our stick of butter. And then we're going to get ready to roast our squash. All right, we got a parchment on top of a cookie tray or a sheet tray. We're going to spread this out. And we're going to season this squash up first before we do our melted butter. We're going to add our honey a little bit later on. There's our salt. We put some pepper in there, right? And mix that around. Some salt and pepper. A little more. A little more of that. Our oven's preheated, right? We're going to let our butter melt. Alright, there's our butter all around. And spread that out a bit. And even the butter doesn't melt all the way, just get that spread around. We're going to be tossing this around in about 15-20 minutes. We're going to be moving around some more because it's going to get some color on it. We're not adding our apples or our nuts yet. We'll get this started and put it in the oven. Alright, we're going to put this in. We're going to check it in 20 minutes. Alright, after 20 minutes, we got a lot more to do. We stirred it all around, right? We only like halfway the amount of the butternut squash is cooked. We're going to add everything. Nuts, honey, stir it around with the butter. Add all your apples, all that in there. You're going to stir it all around. We're going to go back into the oven for check it after another 20 minutes. See if everything's cooked. The butternut squash takes a little longer to cook than the apples, so that's why we started the butternut squash earlier. And stir that all around. It smells really good. And make sure you get all the last of that honey. It's a 1/4 cup of honey. You gotta have it. Plus all the butter. All that honey in there. That's it. So that, and now, we'll taste the apple. Spread that out, and that's ready to go back in the oven. That's another 20-25 minutes, and we're going to check and see how we are. And you want to see if your squash is like knife or fork tender. The smaller pieces are going to be a little softer than the bigger pieces, but it also keeps cooking after we take it off the heat. And we like stirred it around a little bit before, so you all get that honey and the butter and all that with the nuts are all. It's not going to get too brown, but make sure that your squash is nice and soft, and that's all it is. And mix it with the moisture of your fat and your honey, and you're ready to go onto the platter. Put that right there on the platter, and then this is a great side for different stuff. But make sure all the honey's mixed in with the butter, and you're good. One more thing, you can't forget to add a nice salt. The salt is going to counteract your sweetness, so some nice sea salt or some kosher salt at the end.